Good evening and welcome to the June 4th meeting of the Select Board. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Before we get started, I do just want us to have a moment of silence for the victims of the Municipal Center shooting in Virginia Beach. So if everybody just have a quick moment of silence. Thank you. All right, our first item on the agenda is to reorganize, but I got a request to move past that, so we will go to announcements, which I don't believe there are any.
There are none.
No? Okay. And then, so we will start with the public hearing. Since I am also the clerk, I guess I will read the public hearing notice.
Or we could do the reorg.
All right, or we can... Do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jennifer Thomas as the next chairman of the Select Board.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Aggie Jarrett. Yes, I would like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Spinney as chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried.
I'll accept nominations for the vice chair position.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to motion Mr. Prisby to be vice chair of Board of Selectmen.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And the position of clerk.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Carlson to be clerk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a copy of the public hearing notice?
There's one in front of him. There's one in front of him.
I can read that.
That's fine.
Okay. Town of Grafton Public Hearing Notice. The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 4, 2019, in Conference Room A, Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road, Grafton, Mass, to hear citizen comments on the application of Jason Ruskavich, thank you, 26A Solferino Street, Worcester, Mass. The application is for a Class 1 license transfer from Anderson Automotive Sales, 122 Worcester Street, to Blessed Motors Incorporating, doing business as Anderson Automotive, to be located at 122 Worcester Street, North Grafton, Massachusetts. The Selectmen's meeting begins at 7 p.m. Interested citizens are invited to attend this public hearing to offer any written or oral comments.
Need a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is now open. If you guys want to come up.
Sure. Right here?
Yeah, you can move around another seat, whichever you're more comfortable at, standing at the podium or
So
sitting.
get up and not blocking anybody, yeah. So I'm Forbes Anderson, that owns Anderson Automotive for a number of years, and this is Jason that is trying to purchase it from me. That helps.
It's pretty straightforward. It's
Okay.
just a transfer. Just take us through what you're doing and where you're located.
Okay, so, well, I've been there somewhere around 20 years, I guess, at that location. Everyone knows it's a sunshine sign place. It'll never go away from that, I think, but I think I've been there longer. But anyway, so it's before the Mass Pike. And so Jason is buying the building in the business and don't plan on changing anything. I have it sort of honed so it works pretty well, and I'm gonna stay on and, you know, teach them some of the ropes and see how it works. But at any rate, and I can glad to answer any questions.
Is there any from the board?
No.
Any from the audience? Sir?
I don't really have a question, but I just wanted to.
If you come up and if you guys could lend them the podium and just,
Yeah, we can move over here.
My
So
name's
just
John
state-
Hall, I live at 125 Worcester Street, I have a new neighbor.
Oh,
So, first of all, I'd like to thank Toby and congratulate him for being a good neighbor
Thank
and running a fine operation over there, and I expect that to continue. But my main purpose of being here really is to remind people, people don't know, that when that special permit to run that business was originally granted by the planning board, there are conditions on that, on the operation of what happens there. And again, I'm not sure if the board knows or if the applicant knows, but I just, I like to have good relations with my neighbors, and if things were going awry or something, I don't want to be a complainer. If he knows up front, I like to get along with my neighbors, and I expect to do that.
is there something specific about the special permit that was issued at the time that you're alluding to?
No, not particularly, but there are conditions. There's a list of at least, 8 that are still relevant, I believe.
Okay.
Now Toby's, operated under those conditions just fine, and as far as I know, hasn't broken any of them, and like I say, so the business will run like that, but it's important for me to feel that I've made people aware of that, that's all. It's like I say, if the applicant here is not aware and he's doing things that don't, go against the conditions, again, I don't like to be a complainer, but I might complain. And, who knows, I don't want to have something like that lead to an adversarial more relationship. I want to get along with my neighbors.
Well, I appreciate
That's
it.
what I'm doing here.
You're
So
in-
I've made my little piece known. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Hey, thank you.
And that's really all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So the petting zoo is in, out?
Petting zoo is not one of the conditions.
Okay, all right then. Keep the kids happy.
Do you have a question?
No. I was gonna make a motion to close the hearing. There's no one else.
There's a motion on the floor to close the public hearing.
Right in here.
Oh, motion to close the public hearing?
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The hearing's closed. You guys can sit down.
Okay.
Move on to the next piece.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Motion to board approve Class 1 license transfer from Anderson Automotive Sales, 122 Worcester Street to Blessed Motors Incorporated, DBA Anderson Automotive, to be located at 122 Worcester Street in North Grafton.
Second.
Any discussion? Now, this all hinges on conveyance of,
Yeah, conveyance of
Business,
the
I imagine.
property, which, should happen next few weeks, but I guess we don't know exactly with all the different paperwork. But
okay, perfect, thank you.
thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We have no resignations. We have a couple of appointments. Election workers, we'll take them all as one.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Carlson.
I motion that the Board of Selectmen appoint the following election workers: Sharon D. Ward, Dominic
Marziotti.
Marziotti, thank you, and Nancy Malone.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passing unanimously. The next we have the Fire Department Study Committee to appoint the BOS member and to discuss the appointments of the leadership positions on the committee. So BOS membership should just be 1 or 2 individuals.
One in the charge, it's called for one.
All right.
I'll be willing to do that if no one else wants to.
And as far as a volunteer is concerned, Peter Carlson will volunteer his time for this particular endeavor.
I second that motion. To the extent that it's moved.
I didn't make a
Did someone move it?
Why don't you just read?
I move that Peter Carlson be appointed as our representative on the Fire Department Study Committee.
A second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Peter, it's your,
All right,
Congratulations.
it's your 10 hours a week.
okay.
Now, discuss appointments of membership, or leadership positions. So, I mean, by nature, I guess if I'm gonna interject first, if we have a selectman on. Sir,
I'm sorry, I just want, I have a question. I don't believe that Grafton has a board of selectmen anymore, is that correct?
I'm sorry, yeah.
A number of motions have been made using that term. I don't know if it would invalidate them.
It won't, but we'll try and, it's just force of habit, you know what I mean?
I tell you what, I'm gonna do it about 37 more times. You hang out the rest of the meeting, and by the end of it, I'll have it right. Select board. So, let's say it 37 times, and we'll get there. So anyways, I appreciate it, sir.
No, that's fine.
We'll see you later. Terrific. All right. My inclination would be to have, I mean, this is kind of our purview to have a selectman in charge of it. It might make things easier for communications back and forth between the committee and us, but to be honest, there's enough lifelong members of the fire department, enough people who have spent a lot of time in town and know a lot about this. So, I mean, if we just kick it back to them and have them appoint their own leader.
That's what I
I'm sorry,
assumed
I
would
was, yeah, I'm sorry, I thought we were discussing which, people to appoint in the from the leadership of the fire department, not the role on the committee.
Which I suppose I should.
You've done at large, you picked those three. You picked
Right,
the
and
board.
I
we need
thought
to
today
pick
we were
the,
picking
And I
the
need
leadership
the
one.
leadership positions from each station.
So we have Rick Lane, James Braun, Bob Egan, and Eric Matthew.
Correct.
From station three?
That's right, we were picking this apart,
Oh,
just
station
going
two,
piece at
sorry.
a time, weren't we?
Yeah, and,
All right.
because you had more applicants than you had for openings, but you didn't have enough applicants in certain categories of leadership for each station.
Okay. Rick is here. We got anybody else here? That's about it, don't we?
No, because it was a discussion. We didn't invite folks because the first order of business was to get your membership established and on the committee, and then how you wanted to proceed because of the nature of having more applicants than positions.
Okay.
Do
All
you
right.
invite them all in and talk to them? Or no?
Which is what we're gonna have to do. So Rick, you just kinda, you heard it through the grapevine? Okay. So we wanna wait till next meeting and invite everybody to come in and then have, similar to how we did to the at-large membership?
Sure.
Okay, we'll schedule that at the next meeting.
6/11, is that, we're gonna talk about whether that's the next meeting or not, but we're trying to shoot for next week.
Well,
Yeah.
and if we're gonna do all that at once for our next schedule, we can just bring
We
it
need
up
to figure
again
out
when we
who's
get to that
already
point.
on, who's off.
You got something, to offer? Sure.
So
Somebody's already appointed.
the main reason I came is because I'm a little concerned with how this has been handled so far. On 2/12, February 12th, you actually had the study read by the people we hired, or you hired to do this. 2/19, study ideas were brought up. 3/5, the vote was moved because one Board of Selectmen member wasn't here. On 3/12, the vote was moved again because one member wasn't here again. On 3/19, you approved the charge. On 3/26, not on the agenda. On 4/2, not on the agenda. On 4/9, not on the agenda. On 4/16, review possible selections. On 5/7, meet the candidates, which we thought there was numerous amounts of candidates. There was 6, 1 dropped out, 2 didn't show up. You appointed the 3 that showed up with no reason why the other 2, no idea why they weren't there. Maybe they had a work schedule conflict. No one addressed that. 5/14, not on the agenda. 6/4 tonight, appoint Board of Selectmen member and discuss leadership positions on the committee. I can tell you right now that there's a lot of members on the fire department that have really discussed it and how long this has taken and whether you are serious about this or not. So to get people to come forward to be on this committee, I know there's other people that have already said that I'm not going to participate in this. This is not being taken seriously. By the time you appoint this committee, by the time they set up a night that they can all meet together, you're talking October, November, maybe, of them actually meeting once. I've met with my leadership people 5 times already, discussing priorities and what we thought was right. We don't even have an investigator yet. So that was priority February, that we needed an investigator. And now we're paying Steve still, 2 other firefighters or 3 other firefighters that are helping him. This position is not even on the budget. It hasn't been budgeted for. Our budget was cut. So it's gonna come out of payroll, whatever, if they do hire somebody. I mean, really, guys, we're really gotta get serious about this. This is gonna happen. We're already down 1 district chief, Steve. We're gonna be down another district chief in December. And something's gotta get done. So I'm very, very concerned at how this is being handled and how this is being put off.
All right, well, it's not gonna be put off anymore. We're gonna discuss at our next meeting who we're gonna appoint for the rest of the group, and then away it will go. I guess I will be making sure it's on the agenda, because it's my position to do so, so we will be.
Okay, thank you.
How are we reaching out to people to make sure that they know to be here that night? It was a little concerning that a couple of the guys that had expressed such a strong interest at being a member at large didn't, for whatever reason, weren't here. So are we doing it by phone, by mail? How are we contacting people?
Email.
Email?
Yeah, the same way that they probably made the application. For the 2 months, because once they set the charges to answer some of this, you know, from March to May, there was an advertisement window that we went through because they developed the charge, they voted on it. So that window, it does seem long, but we do advertise for some time for all of these things. And now we have the problem where the way we set up the charge, we don't have the people in leadership roles from each station that have applied. So now that's the quandary they're trying to grapple with now.
Right, and I know that at one of those meetings, it was just because you didn't have those positions, it was discussed to reach out to the fire department and see if they could get more people to put their name in. And as far as I know, that reach out was never given. There was no email sent from the fire department or from the town to reach out to the firefighters to say, is there anybody else in these stations available or interested? And like I said, I'm telling you, the people that I've asked, they're like, they've been watching this go on. They've been watching meeting after meeting, and they're saying, I don't even want to waste my time. You know?
So they weren't original applicants at the end.
No, these are ones that I'm, like I said, because you said there wasn't enough from each station. These are ones that I've talked to try to get them involved, and they're like, from what I've seen so far, they're not interested.
Rick, the best we can do at this point is make sure it's on our next agenda to bring people in, because we're not gonna decide on it now with
No,
just
I
one
know.
person.
That's why I want to make sure that wasn't going to happen tonight, because again, 2 new selectmen. I don't even know if they've read the charge yet. I don't know if they've even read the study. It's 150 some, 160 some pages, and there's a lot there. So they should be knowledgeable about that before they make a decision on who's going to be on this committee.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Bruce.
We'll see you next week. I'm more than comfortable with, you two have been around for a while. I'm sure you've well versed in what we've been talking about over the past few months with regards to this, so we'll put it on the next meeting, whether it's June, 11th is next Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's that date or the week following, we'll decide a little bit later tonight how we want to schedule the summer out. Let's see, annual appointments. We have a list. The only hesitation on doing it this way is, we typically just do this as one big, large block of, reappointments. Has everybody on this list has expressed interest about remaining on it? Okay.
We haven't always done it that way.
Well, there's someone that's coming off of there.
They're not on the list.
Yeah, so if they give a notice to resign, they won't be reappointed. And you'll accept their resignation June 20th, somewhere in that neighborhood for July 1, and then you'll have to advertise for someone else to take their spot.
The reason why I bring it up is, in the future, how I wanted to approach this was just to make sure there's some, committees that don't meet very often. There's some committees that meet very often. And if attendance is an issue for individuals that are on the committee, they typically have a placeholder there for the duration while they're on the committee. I've noticed this on some of my committees, and I want to make sure that when we hit this mark where we're reappointing everybody, if there's people that are on it that aren't providing input or showing up on a regular basis, it's the opportunity to remove those individuals and cast another net to find people who will take their spots. And sometimes I think people just kind of just sit on the committee until they're done with it, and then they naturally hop off and somebody else comes back in. I don't know if it's a concern for anybody else,
What's a concern for me?
so I don't mind reappointing everybody tonight and keeping it going as it stands, but I think we should probably have a review of these. This is a natural time to do it because we're reappointing. And that sets the standard moving forward. If there's a committee assignment where people aren't willing to or no longer are able to contribute and they still have 2 years left on their term, this is the time that we should probably replace them.
How would you go about figuring that out?
So, I mean, we have the list of committees here. They all have committee chairs. If we were to reach out to them individually and get an assessment, I mean, it should be part of their roles as the chairmen of those particular committees that they're involved in. Instead of getting into it and then getting to the point where they get really busy and
Right.
they're struggling with membership, and it happens.
Just to be clear, these are just annual, they're just 1-year appointments for the ones you're considering tonight. So you mentioned 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, just to be clear, these are annual.
Well, some of them are 3-year terms.
I see 3 years on here, 3 years,
Which-
3
which
year,
one?
3 year.
Board of Select or
Conservation
Affordable Housing?
Commission, Board of Health, Board of Cemetery Commissioners, Agricultural Commission, pretty much the majority
It's a
of
rolling,
these.
it's a rolling stock for
Right.
Okay.
who goes on, I
Right.
got you. And we do advertise, if people are up, whether they wanna be on or not, we still open it up as, to tell the community, hey, there's an expiration, we'll consider probably the applicant who's in place first, but it's still an expiring, so if you're interested, we try to encourage those people to apply.
Yeah, I guess my point is the active membership on some of these boards and committees, I would just wanna make sure that we're assessing it, that's all. So if we do have an active pool of applicants and we're ignoring, a position on one of these where somebody's not showing up or can't, which you know how, life happens and that's the way it goes. They don't always resign and naturally go out. They just kinda absorb that extra work that we have to do on a particular committee and then move on. So, I don't know. I chose this time to bring it up. I don't know how anybody else feels about
I
it.
totally agree with you.
So, I mean, we don't have to do this tonight. We could push this off and reach out to the chair persons on each one of these committees.
I just know, on, community preservation, when we have an attendance issue, we actually deal with it within the committee and call and talk to that member and see if they wanna continue or see if they wanna come off and that sort of thing, so.
Well, the chart
think
has a
that-
provision for it too,
right.
not to interrupt, but.
But I think that most committees already handle that issue themselves. Do they
Yeah,
not?
I would venture to say that most do, and they can police their own. But the
Yeah.
ones that are not, and those are the ones that I would struggle with this on.
Okay,
So I don't think it's too much more of an effort to make sure that we're actively participating in who we're appointing and making sure these are all healthy and vibrant committees.
yeah, that's fine.
I would agree with that.
Another question I've got here. So Grafton residents are the only ones that can be on these committees, right?
Unless they're advisory members. But yes.
Okay. I just want to know, because Melinda Springer, she moved out about 3-4 months ago to Shrewsbury. So I just didn't know if that was an advisory role for the Grafton Cultural Council. I don't know if she still wants to serve on Grafton Cultural Council or live in Shrewsbury, but I just want to point that out, that might need to be remedied.
Have all these people affirmatively said that they want to continue, or are we just re-upping them automatically?
There's a letter that
They get a
goes to them
letter.
and they say
They
yes
sign
or
it.
they say no,
Okay.
and so they've affirmed it.
Maybe in that instance, she got the letter before she moved.
Maybe.
How long ago did these go out?
The reappointment letters,
Yeah.
if it's June, maybe April, I don't know the exact date.
I think I got mine for housing a while back. But.
And she may not know. She may not know she
Okay.
has to live there, and I don't know if people have moved.
So does anybody any problems with me just putting this on the next one and recalculating a little bit?
Are you going to be doing the reaching out?
Yeah, I'll be working with Becca and Tim.
Okay.
Basically, I just want you to provide me a list
That's fine.
and
Of
an
the chair
email.
people for those committees to ask
Yep.
about their attendance?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. If it's something that we're appointing, it's something that we should have a direct relation to. It's our one time a year, really. I mean, I know we bring people in, but nobody's gonna bring people in when we have a a committee in to get an update. Nobody's gonna throw anybody under the bus, and that's not really what I'm looking for. I just wanna maintain the health of all these, and this is one opportunity to do it. So, shipping that till next meeting, I'll reach out to you guys this week or next. Annual appointments for the town administrator. Is that, I don't have a copy of that.
Yeah, it should be 3 pages back. It's only for the assessors, the burial agent, keeper of the lockup, Public Works Advisory, Recreation, and Traffic Safety Committee.
And you just want us to affirm the list?
Yeah, there's no new members. They're all existing and all expressed an interest to stay in their capacities.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board vote to affirm the appointments of the town administrator per the list provided in the June 4, 2019 meeting packet for the upcoming fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, the motion carries. And moving on to new business. First up is the Tufts, Grafton, and Boston Medford Institutional Biosafety Committees. Do we
So
have any-
we do have Jean here. You can do introductions, but when you're coming up, you want to come up, sit at the table, if I may, Chair.
Please.
You have a bylaw that deals with institutional biosafety. Tufts obviously has a BL3 lab and does incubator space at the campus. They have an institutional biosafety committee in Medford as well. They want to merge both bodies to one, still complying with every aspect of the bylaw. The Board of Health has reviewed this with Tufts and they're in agreement with it. And we have people from the Health Alliance that sit on as an advisory member and they support the merger as well. So that's a summarization, but there might be more detail you want to talk about.
So, I'm here with Dr. Shaukat Anwar, who is, our research dean and, is available to answer any questions about the advantages of the merger. I'm Jean Poteet.
Hi, thank you. All I would like to say is that we looked at the bylaws, we made sure that the merger does not affect the bylaws of the town and will still comply with all the requirements in the bylaws related to Institutional Biosafety Committee.
So no substantive changes for us at all? It's more clerical type of thing for your end?
Well, we're hoping it'll be more efficient and it will give the members a broader range of research protocols to consider because there were, as I understand it, many months when there wasn't enough for the Grafton folks to kind of get their teeth into. So they're in favor of it and it'll allow them to understand what some of the research is that's going on in on the Boston and the Medford campuses as well. So I think they're in favor of it as.
Yeah, but just for context, some people don't know when you did this in 2002, for Grafton, when you built the BL3.
Right.
So the protocol in the lab, new products, incidents reviewed, that's what the committee does. So I don't know, maybe just bullet a couple of those things of what the committee does and will continue to do.
Yeah.
The main job of the committee is to make sure that any research that's conducted on campus is following all the biosecurity protocols for people who work inside and people outside the lab. That's one thing, very important. And so when a scientist proposes a research with certain protocols, the protocol is reviewed by this committee. And the job of the committee is to make sure we are following all the standard rules and regulations that guides the biosafety for that research. And we have expertise on the committee who knows the NIH, the National Institutes of Health requirement for doing certain work, and for certain infectious agent, we have to have certain kind of barriers built into the system so that, the work can be done safely. And the job of the IBC is to make sure that we are following this protocol. Those are written into the protocol, that they'll be following this. For example, these should be stored in a freezer that is within certain biosecure zone, for example. So the committee job is to make sure that is what's happening in the protocol. So, and then the protocol is approved, scientists are working on it, and then annually or semi-annually, IBC representative will go there and check to see if that is what's been happening, what they say they're going to do. Okay? If there is any kind of violation, that comes back to the committee discusses it, and then recommends things to do. A recommendation could be more training for the people working, all the way up to closing the lab. So that's, in a nutshell, is the job of IBC. And we have 2 members from the town of Grafton. And they have been very good in looking into the biosafety component of the work that's been done. Most of the time, because I chair the Grafton IBC component, and I make sure that their questions are answered by the scientist. Because sometimes it may go above their head, so to speak. I don't get, but technicality can, be there, and I make sure that it is explained to the point that they understand and they can say, okay, it's all right or it's not all right. So by combining them, the one advantage we have is that we are now going to have more depth in terms of expertise that we need to evaluate a protocol. The second biggest advantage is each IBC started creating their own kind of rules and regulations. And so if a scientist wanted to work in Boston at the same time in Grafton, now he has to follow 2 different protocols in terms of meeting all the regulations. And so by combining them, we are making it easier for the scientists to follow the protocols, and the work can be done, under one guideline by the university, or Tufts University in this case. So, and our members don't have to go to Boston. Our town members here, they will still meet in Grafton. Most of all the meetings will be over video conferencing, and then we'll move one meeting over there, another meeting over there, so that people can get to know each other face to face. And overall, we see a lot of benefit, and we have our lawyer and also talked with the town to make sure that by doing this, we are not going to be in a position not to follow any of the bylaws of the town of Grafton. We made sure that's there. Representatives are still going to be there. We'll also have all the an inspection that takes place through the town of Grafton for our facilities. That will still go on the same way it's been done. So we don't see anything that goes against the bylaws of the town of Grafton.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions? All right, perfect.
Mr. Chair,
Entertain a motion.
I move that the board vote to support the merger of the Tufts University, Medford, and Grafton Institutional Biosafety Committees.
Second.
Any discussion?
I do have one question. Do you have a BL Level 3 in Boston?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, thanks for coming out. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
An easement for Mass Electric Company for Old Westboro Road to service the DPW facility.
So I'm going to show you a picture of the area. We passed this at town meeting just last month, and Andy's going to talk about the particulars.
Thanks, Andy. Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is couldn't be more standard easement for National Grid. They need to get power from the pole through a trench to the building. That's pretty much it. It honestly couldn't be any more straightforward.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you came out for this. I'll entertain a motion
I like to,
approve the easement.
So moved.
Second.
That's it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks for coming out.
Yep.
VHB contract for stormwater management report.
So you may have heard a term recently called MS4 or NIPDs. It's a EPA requirement coupled with some DEP rules and regs. And VHB is going to assist the town in its first year requirements and developing the foundation for future requirements. So some of the deliverables for the from VHB is detailing the first year requirements, detailed compliance activities that we have to take over the next 5 years, the plan to eliminate illicit discharge, and a stormwater management plan that'll ultimately, I guess, be approved by the EPA. Brian, there's a coalition for this as well, but this is something that we budgeted for, and we need to do a reporting compliance. So VHB's been with us for stormwater management for a long time, and they helped us develop the bylaw that was passed in 2012. So if people have particular questions, Brian can answer the details, but that's the long and short of it from what we need to do to comply with the MS4 permit.
So we're hiring them to assist Brian, I assume, in putting this all together.
Yes.
Well, they've been on board since day one, once the EPA released the news that they were gonna go with the,
All right, and all the
The D's
representatives for
requirements.
VHB you're familiar with?
yes.
Okay.
Mr.
Anybody have any
Chairman?
questions
No.
for Brian? He came all the way this way.
Mr.
Not too bad of a
Chairman,
drive.
I move the board vote to allow the chair to sign the MS4 compliance contract with VHB dated May 15th, 2019.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Peterson's Oil Service for diesel fuel and unleaded gasoline.
So currently, we have a daily rate for gas and diesel purchases. This was a joint procurement through the CMRPC, who Becca coordinated along with DPW. So 30 towns participate in this joint procurement. What this really does for this fixed price is hedge against the market. So if the market over fluctuates and that where we're buying now goes high and this is lower, we'll opt into this without any minimum. So we're just trying to hedge on that $100,000, $110,000 budget that we have for fuel purchase. If the market goes haywire, we have a fixed price to fall back on without a minimum guaranteed purchase that we have to make.
How does it work? Because this is, I mean, 209.
There's no tax.
I see. Well, I mean, that helps. But what's gas right now? Is it like 249?
250, 259, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
this
the
is
thing.
Diesel's
significantly
almost
cheaper.
Diesel's almost $3 a gallon.
Yeah, but you have federal tax, you have state tax.
Okay.
We're not, we're exempt from federal, but not from state, which is don't ask me,
Okay.
ask your legislator.
Okay.
Entertain a motion?
I like it.
Yeah.
So
Chair, I
Sorry.
move that the board vote to sign the contract with Peterson Oil Services for diesel fuel and unleaded gasoline for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none. All right, so we have a host agreement for, you know what, is anybody here from MJ's Market?
No, we actually had a 315 email from them with one more revision to the document.
Yeah, then, all right.
So I sent an email asking us to pass over this until the 11th. So it's imperative you have a meeting for the 11th.
I did not see.
Yep.
So I guess we are meeting, Jen, you wanna come on up? So we are passing this over, go on the 11th. The next, looks like 6 contracts, are all concerning summer rec. So you always have the opportunity to
My annual
come in
visit.
and
Yeah.
take us through your choices, what you're laying out for everybody in town for the summer, and then,
Yeah, well, these are some of our biggest vendors. I'll throw my plug in. Basically, our summer starts next Saturday. Big Truck Day is here, 10 to 12, and the beach opens at 11 for the season. So we're getting ready for that. And most of our programming will start right after school gets out. So these are a lot of our bigger vendors that we work with that we require this level of contract. So all of these guys we've been working with for many, many years, but we do, and most recently been doing more due diligence on researching other vendors and visiting them and seeing if there's anyone else that we should be working with. But we're really comfortable with these guys. They've run really popular programs, and looking forward to another season with them.
Does anybody have any questions for Jen? Tim?
Just when we create the agenda, we always think the board's gonna sign, but you have me as being the signature, so the motion would be not what you have in front of you in your packet, but for the TA to sign if you,
There are amended motions in
Yeah.
front of everyone.
Can we lump them all into one and just authorize you to sign them? Anybody have
Pleasure of the board.
comfortable with that, or do they just want to read up every single motion?
Doesn't matter, we can lump them.
We can lump them.
I move the board vote to allow the town administrator to sign the contracts with Wicked Cool, Finn and Feather Sports, Hillside Meadows Equestrian, James Chisholm, Best Soccer, and Skyhawk Sports Academy for the 2019 summer season.
Second.
Any discussion?
did
All-
you get Hillside? Did you say Hillside? I'm sorry.
Hillside
Yes,
Meadows.
Hillside.
All right, so you got all of them?
We did.
I didn't.
We did.
I was listening as best I could.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Have a great summer. Award and sign pay-as-you-throw bag contract to Waste Zero.
So, there's a story behind this. We have some bags, and we have a representative, Courtney Forrester from Waste Zero. We went out to bid. We had, I think, 10 inquiries into bags and people wanting the bid specs. We had one respondent, which was Waste Zero. We were able to get an increase of 0.05 mils. So these are the mill thickness for the drawstrings. That's the small bag. Large, this was in the bottom of the box. I'm not sure if you were supposed to give me green, but these are yellow. But we're trying to display the drawstring, and we're trying to display the thickness of the bag. The document that Becca had put together assessing our savings as a result of going through this process is considerable. However, we learned today when we started to review the contract that the bid boxes where we asked for our wave top, we asked for different mill sizes, we asked for drawstrings, they put prices in the wrong boxes.
I see.
So we thought we were gonna save about 10 grand. We're gonna save only 5 grand, or 4,500 bucks. So Courtney can explain to you how and why they made that mistake, but the long and short of it is we're certainly not gonna save as much as we thought, but we're still gonna pay less than we paid last year for bags.
Okay.
Which the goal was to get the quality, which Courtney could talk about the particular steps that they've taken to ensure that quality to us. And I think the rate reduction, even though there was a mix-up in that bid pricing, is reflective because you are still saving about 5% off the last year's spend. So you can, if you want to talk about the technology that you've reinvigorated quality control in, and keep my board very comfortable with the quality of the trash bags we're buying.
Absolutely. Good. Good evening, Select Board. Thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate that. Thanks.
Yes, so we've been the vendor for Grafton for your pay-as-you-throw bags since the program began. And some of you may have experienced some different quality issues over time. This is something that we stand by our bags. We don't just say, yeah, good luck with you. No matter what, we always take bags back. We place roles as the town administrator and assistant can attest to. We just would rather, especially in pay-as-you-throw programs, we work with 800 programs nationwide, about 100 in Massachusetts. I'm a former municipal employee myself. I get it, right? We understand when there's problems. We want to make sure that rather than, nitpicking over, what did it look like? We want to take it back, we inspect it, we always replace it. In response to Grafton's issues as well, we've spent about $1.6 million retrofitting our plant. We make our bags in South Carolina by our own folks, so we've been putting those investments in over time as a testament to our quality. We've also added on additional staff. We actually have a whole new production team. If they're not starting now, they're going to be soon. The folks are coming from, I'll just call it the world's largest manufacturer of plastic bags. And they're coming to work for us, which is really important for us to continue our quality and production standards that we hold very dear, not only our service to municipalities, but making sure that the products that we manufacture are holding the standards that we demand, you expect, and we need to have for the programs to be successful.
Terrific. Does anybody have any questions for Courtney?
Actually, I do. Tim, can I see that
This one?
Stack of bags. Yeah, Courtney, thank you very much for coming in. You know, this is one of those municipal issues, right? Where everybody understands it, everybody interacts with it, and this is like one of the things we'll get feedback about.
Sure.
We have a $60 million municipal budget, and most of the time, we don't get any questions about any of it. This came up, and it lit up the internet. Like, we almost broke the internet when we started talking about trash bag quality about a couple months ago. So thank you for coming in. I have noticed there was a decrease in the quality of the bag over the past year or so, I would say. When I take the bag out, we go through a couple a week, and when I take the bag out on a weekend, it would rip in my hands like it was putty. When I go to use the drawstring, this is a quality drawstring, I can tell. It actually separates from the bag.
Right.
Some of the ones I was using seem to be glued or
Yeah.
would somehow adhere to the side. So, you know, this is one of the very small ways that people interact with town government.
Yes.
And when we can't get this right, we hear about it. So now you're here tonight, and I'm sorry, but you're hearing about
No.
it from me.
Absolutely.
So-
That's what I'm here for.
We can talk about, I did notice some of the prices in the boxes, and I had questions about that. But, you know, I'm glad that there's some savings, but regardless of the specific dollar amount of the savings, were we to ask people to pay more and get worse product, there's nothing you can do to make people angrier faster in this business. So
No kidding.
thank you for coming in.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Does anybody else have anything for her?
I just want to ask Tim and Becca, so what is the best approach for our residents if they get a faulty bag?
The protocol, I mean, it's tough if it's full of trash to return it.
Right, but if they haven't used the trash bag.
Yeah, the
I
rest
should
of the
make
roll
that
has
clear.
a SKU code on it.
Okay,
They need to bring it back to CVS.
okay,
Stop and Shop, wherever the purchase was made. They'll refund or they'll give new bags. That'll get back, just like you return any other good
great.
at any other market. They can come back to us. People have come. There hasn't been many of them. And we have bags because we sell them to seniors at a discount because of a policy the board put in place a long time ago. We'll change up those bags right there for them, or at least give them one new bag so we can have a one-off. And then we'll just go back and get, you know, we'll true up, if you will, with Waste Zero after the fact.
And residents can also contact us directly, and we would mail a replacement roll out to their home. It's a little bit longer than if they were already out and about doing their shopping, but we certainly do that as well.
How do they do that?
What's that?
How would they do that?
Give us a phone call, or if it comes in via email through the.
We should talk about, there's inserts with this.
Yes.
I don't have
Okay.
a bag that has.
Yeah, the
it,
actual
but
retail
It
site.
has
Yeah.
the information on what
Yep.
to do if,
Okay.
along with other stuff that we like to promote from Facebook to Twitter to
Sure. Let them-
best recycling.
You're on your
practices.
custom insert, yep.
And then the pink bag program too, which is part of Waste Zero, which
Yep.
is an important value add for us. We don't pay anything for that. We actually get a little bit of money.
Yes.
But we're, you know,
textile
just like the fuel piece, we're always hedging and we're always trying to find value add. Those bags, even though we have issues with the manufacture of this at times, there's a value add there from your company for
Yep.
that purpose as well. So I don't know if we can make a small, you know, pitch for that now.
Right, so as mentioned, we do make the pink bags for the textile collection program as well. So we're making them in the exact same factory, exact same folks. And I'll just touch on that too. I mean, it's sad to say, but unfortunately we did actually let some longtime employees go because they clearly were not making bags. We don't know how they got out the door. We have a 26-point, we call it pass off. I won't go through the acronym. It stands for different things. They're supposed to go through checks for quality, and whether they were sleeping on the job or done with it or whatnot, unfortunately we ask them to then leave because we can't have our name on those products. But we make the pink bags for Simple as well. And it's also, I'll just kind of touch on it, it's not quite ready for prime time just yet, but we're looking at what we're calling an EnviroBag program, which will capture those hard to recycle plastics. So what can't go in the single stream, so what's not a bottle, can, or a container, wasn't like a plastic can, but a plastic bottle or a container. We're looking at a new program, so it hopes to be coming down soon, maybe within the next year, having some pilots or some stuff where we can actually see how it works and make it most efficient here in Massachusetts. That's another thing, being our partner, being able to get in on the ground floor with a community that's been so established with their pay-as-you-throw program and working so well, where the residents are invested in, what can I not put in my green bag, right? They want to find, let's put it in textiles, let's bring my stuff to the right place. So it should be another thing we might see coming down within the next year or so, maybe even sooner, depending on how everything lines up with pilot programs and processors to help us with that program.
That's brilliant.
I have one more question,
Please.
actually. The other, so Ed brought up some great points about quality of the bag. The other concern that I've heard from some people too are whether or not we're ever going to have biodegradable bags. And I know quality, biodegradable don't really go hand in hand, but I just am curious if you've heard that from other communities, if Waste Zero has talked about it, if there's anything, because as people are looking at what do I not want to throw away, and we're passing all these laws about
Yes. Sure.
no styrofoam,
Yes.
everything else. Is that something? That comes
So
up?
I'll touch on, there's a couple parts in there, a couple things. So we do make biodegradable bags. We do not recommend them for trash disposal for a couple of reasons. Trash in Massachusetts, I'm not sure if you're aware, but we only have 7 active landfills in the state. In 2027, there'll be 0. Most trash in Massachusetts is incinerated. I'm not sure specifically.
We are.
You're incinerated. So if something's going to a waste energy facility, it's not really, nothing's breaking down, right? It's burning, and a biodegradable bag is more expensive, so it seems kind of counterintuitive to that. Same with the paper line, it's heavier, it's more, and then you're burning paper, which could have been recycled. So while we do offer that bag, we would not recommend it because it's not breaking down. We usually use biodegradable bags for composting, food waste, that type of materials, which we also can do. But I wouldn't recommend that for trash. And again, I think as all these, statewide programs in Maine and different cities and towns in Massachusetts here too are banning single-use plastics and hitting it, Pay-as-you-throw was kind of the initial program that got all those things down, right? That got everyone thinking, oh yeah, I need to recycle this, or I don't want to trash that. Same thing that single-use bags bans are doing. Everyone's remembering to bring those, 5 cents even, or just a paper bag. Everyone's remembering to bring in their things. That's exactly what Pay-as-you-throw was created. It's that signal that gets people to do the right thing. And it'd be lovely if we're at a zero waste where we have no trash, a little mason jar of trash a year. But until we're there, unfortunately, folks still have stuff to dispose of, and the safest, most effective way to collect it and is in those plastic bags. So,
Thank you. That's
Sure.
a great answer. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Carlson?
Yes, I move the board vote.
No.
No.
what-
Yes,
no,
Mr.
that was-
Carlson.
The other Mr. Carlson.
That was funny.
That was funny. I didn't know he was in the
Mr. Chairman, John Carlson, 42 Old Upton Road. Just a question. Several years ago, we had a pink bag to aid and support breast cancer. Is that still in effect within the town?
No.
And it isn't.
No. We had curbside bins, pink bins for
Yeah.
recycling, which that was for American Cancer Society, which I don't know, maybe we sold 17. We did the best we could. Harvey bought a lot. Thank God they were able to sell them to other communities. But no, we don't have that any longer.
So we don't have the other program. We don't make the contribution anymore.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you very much.
No.
I'm not sure.
This- Is that something that we let go of the program, just wasn't getting a response?
I don't remember the details of why we stopped. I think there was a problem with a municipality giving to a 501c3, even though the funds were derived from like an enterprise. So I think there was some legal DOR related issues, but I got to go back
it's a while.
7 years ago to
Yeah.
dig through what the issue was. I don't recall the particulars.
All right. Well, if it's simple, please take a look and let us know. Anything further? Then I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board vote to enter a contract with Waste Zero for pay-as-you-throw bag manufacturing and account management services as recommended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. I don't know why I keep looking over at you for that. But thank you very much, Courtney.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
all
it.
so
Thank you.
much.
Just in keeping in the thought of making sure to say select board over and over again for our template, we need to make sure we scrub it and put select board everywhere where it's select. Man. All right, next up, sorry, hey, we got the employment contract for the chief of police.
So, the chief noticed me over 7 months ago, probably, as his contract calls for, that he wished to stay on as police chief, and I concur with that, assessment of keeping him on. So we developed a contract that we think is good and fair, and something that we can sustain. The 3-year cost to this contract will cost the community $13,138. So it's certainly something over a 3-year period we can retain, you know, a good, polished police chief, and that's what I'm recommending to you tonight.
He's gonna be polished?
Chief, do you want to come up and say a couple of words, or you just want to sit in the back?
Spit and polished cop, it's a common term, chief, it's a Rhode Island term, I think, spit and polished.
Where's Rhode Island?
I have probably no idea. It's right next to
Good
Woonsocket,
evening.
I think.
Yeah. That's its own.
Chief, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and congratulations on the reorganization of the select board.
So, we got Tim's perspective on the contract. Can you give us yours, and then, if anybody has any questions?
Do we have a contract that we can see?
I don't have some.
Do we not have a copy in the packet?
No.
We do not.
Yeah, you don't have it in there because I don't wanna, I guess I could have redacted your home address, I just didn't think that it was appropriate to give it out. The terms are laid out in your packet in terms of what the new deal calls for.
This is something that we've never done in executive session, is it? Not that I can recall.
No.
To be done in open.
Yeah. Just making sure.
What are the terms are not
You
in there?
should walk them through this.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for the purposes of executive session, because we've always had the contract like before them at the meeting, which it has to be in the packet.
It's in the
right?
packet.
So,
The signature.
yeah,
packet.
the signature for the ratification. If we're gonna talk about the details of what that $13,000 is distributed over 3 years, we should enter into executive session. But since we've never done it in the past, I haven't planned for that eventuality.
In this particular situation, we've always been quite pleased as a board. My recollection is correct. With the service that you're providing us, I don't think we've ever had an issue with it. So, I'm more than happy with it, but, if there's other members that have some other things that they want to discuss as we're talking about this, things they want to review, I'd be more than happy to, lend some time. If not, we can have the chief go through what, he's done for the past couple of years for the town, a lot of good things,
Yeah, we've
and,
moving along. Well, when I first got here, we built a new station. That was no easy task, but we did it on time, and we got a gem for a station in the town of Grafton. Probably one of the largest training hubs in central Mass. Very popular for training in town. I'm sure you drive by, and we are able to utilize the training because we use the training room. I send my officers for training for free, so we probably save $5,000-6,000 a year in training, having the officers go there through MPI, MEMA, any other a host of different training companies that utilize our facility. We are working on accreditation still. We were stalled for a while during negotiations because of rules of labor rules and whatnot, but that's coming along. Policies, several policies have been rewritten. We've entered into several programs now to ensure that the policies are distributed, they're accounted for, they're read. We also have tests that we can give online to make sure the officers understand the policies. You will be getting a packet in the not-too-distant future of new rules and regulations that conform to the standards of the Mass accreditation. So that I have to give to you, to the board, to review that, and you have a certain amount of time to take a look at it, or they go into effect according to Mass General Law. So you'll be getting that soon. Not a lot of changes, but new things that are coming up in the past years that police departments have to adapt to. We have a good fleet management program, as you're aware, and I thank you all for allowing me to do that. We have good cruisers, good equipment. A lot of the things I purchase, I do with grants, extra money we have in one pool of grants that we can purchase. We can save money in another line and make those purchases without coming back to the town to ask for more money. So, been good with that. So that's basically it. You know, we're not trying not to cost the town a lot of money. We know money has to go elsewhere, and you know, until things build up, we'll make do what we have. I can stretch $1 if I have to. Even if I don't have to, I prefer to do that than just spend it, because there's always places where it can be used. So my budgets have always come under what we budgeted, so we've never asked for extra money. You know, sometimes we have to, because of the grant system and all that, we have to transfer from expenses to salaries or salaries to expenses, but that's always come with inside the budget. So like I said before, we never had to come back to the town at town meeting and say, hey, we're short this, we're short that. Even after contract negotiations, we've been lucky with that. So I think the department's doing very well, and it's been a pleasure being here. Be 15 years in August, and I'd like to see if I can do a few more, if you'll have me.
Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
No, thank you, Chief. Everybody loves you that I talked to, so thank you.
Well, everybody, but
Yeah, the bad guys.
thank you. Yeah.
Tim, what are the general details on the contract? Length, annual
It's
percentage
a
increase?
3-year, it's a minimum of 1.5% with a maximum of 3% based on performance and budget capabilities. Those are really the only, and everything else follows the personnel bylaws. So in terms of personal time, vacation was negotiated when he first started, so that's a non-issue. That's it.
The 13K, that's max exposure.
Yeah.
Performs excellent, 3%.
Is it 3 or 3.5? I'm sorry, I don't.
For the
If you look
three.
on the first page of that
1.5
contract,
to 3.
it's 1.5 to 3. All right.
Yeah, 3.
I understand. We kicked around a lot of numbers when we negotiated.
Yep.
So,
I do have a question. Tim, what is the annual increase for the union officers in the current contract?
2%, I believe.
yeah, on average, it's tough to,
next year
with
they-
steps. A lot of people are maxed out, but on average, it's 2.
It's 2%, okay, distributed amongst the whole collective bargaining unit?
Yeah.
Okay. And yours calls for a maximum of 3?
Mhm.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
And in terms of police departments generally, the chief will always be 25 to 30% higher than the next ranking, and that ranking official will be 20% higher than the next ranking. And
Yeah.
there's certain
Can't read
spaces
very fast.
between each.
Yes.
So, and we try to keep that with the lieutenant and the
Okay.
chief and the sergeants.
All right.
Does anybody else have any further questions? We all comfortable with signing this tonight?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion.
I move the board vote to sign the final, whoops, nope, I don't have the thing. What's the motion?
Just sign the employment contract with the,
No, I just don't have any language. I move that we sign the employment contract for the chief of police, or to
Yeah,
direct him to do
from
it.
July 1/19 to June 30, 2022.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thanks, Chief.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much
Thanks
for your
very much.
service, Chief.
For another
Chief.
good 3 years, and
Yeah, pass that way.
thank you.
thanks, chief.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hey, Chief, thanks for coming out.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Great, Paul. Thanks.
All right, final report for reimbursement of chapter 90 funds for the school zone lights.
So last year, you voted to approve an application for Chapter 90 for school zone lights. We did all the school zones with new lights. It's a $47,000 reimbursement. They were asking the board to signed so we can get 45,000 back from chapter 90 and the remainder will be paid for by the school department.
Sounds pretty straightforward. I think that's an easy motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I move the board vote to sign the final report for reimbursement of chapter 90 funds for the replacement of the school zone lights.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Just, retreading a little bit, I believe the contract is supposed to be for the chairman to sign.
Is that for the chapter 90 project request?
No, for the actual chief employment contract, I only have one signature line. Looks like it's for the chairperson of the select board.
Does it say select board or does it say selectmen?
It says select board.
Oh, I got that
Chairperson
right,
of the
that's the
select
wrong
board.
line.
Get that one. We don't need to nullify, we just need to correct a motion, so just somebody give me a motion to authorize me to sign it alone.
I move to authorize the chair of the board, select board to sign the contract? What contract?
With the chief of police.
For chief police.
That's
Second.
fine. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Glad we got that right.
I'll be glad to represent the select board in signing the contract. Alright, and right of first refusal for 44 Estabrook Ave, the Knowlton Farms Trust.
So Blue Wave Solar is considering a solar field at this location. Appropriate letters to come out of 61A went to the assessor, to recreation, to conservation, to planning, and all recommended not to exercise the right to let it allow solar to go on this particular site. We are in negotiations with Blue Wave now relative to a tax agreement, so they know what their tax service will be on a solar field. Generally speaking, we're getting about 12.5 per megawatt. We haven't done a solar agreement in a while, so that might be an old number, and it might be higher, it might be lower, but we're not there yet. The first step is to not exercise the right to purchase the land, if you so choose.
Does anybody have any,
What was the purchase price? Or what would be the price?
Did we have the bona fide letter in part of their packet? Hold on, I got it here.
Is it in there? I don't know if it's in that letter.
24 acres.
It's not in there.
Yeah, but Kramer told us that it was a bona fide offer, so I'm wondering what the number is, because I know we had a number at one point. Hold on.
anybody have anything else while we're digging through stuff, so we're digging through, they don't have to dig through twice?
Nope.
I do not have it. I thought I did, but I do not.
Is it gonna sway somebody one way or the other on this particular topic?
I'm gonna try to text somebody and see if I can get it.
Do we need to decide on it tonight?
No, we're gonna meet next week anyways.
Jen, if you want to wait for that price, I'll wait for you next week and decide then.
No, that's okay. I was just curious if conservation isn't interested or anything, but when land goes for sale, I think we just need to do our due diligence and make sure it's nothing that we want to consider.
Alright.
Because it's only goes for it's.
Well, it wasn't on your master list anyway, so
It wasn't?
that's why they voted not to
Oh, okay.
exercise, or recommend you not exercise it, because it wasn't on the master plan list of purchases.
Okay.
So I think that was the rationale.
Okay. Okay, I'm okay with it.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board vote not to exercise its right of first refusal for the property located off of 44 Estabrook Road.
Second.
Ave, sorry.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Tim, for your TA report, please.
Okay, a couple things. So, under economic development, we did ask for a technical assistance grant from Mass Development. It's a grant for $30,000 that will help us do a market analysis to find out the highest and best use for the old DPW site once we move. Relative to that as well, there is some obvious trepidation, if you will, relative to the site. So we have Scott Parker, Parker Environmental, doing a review of the historic environmental data for that old DPW site. So once they move, we want to put it to its highest and best use, but we want to utilize the warrant article from 2017 to start to begin the process of reviewing the historic environmental data, so we can, when we put that property out to bid, after we do the analysis with the grant, if we were to get it, we can have some information that would help a purchaser buy it. So that's what we're moving with that. Another piece with John Allen is working on an MBTA survey at the MBTA station. So if you go to the MBTA station, take the train east or west, there's a kiosk there with a QR code, and we're really just trying to gather information from the commuters who park in that lot relative to a mixed-use development around the station. So we've talked about Pine Street and redeveloping Pine Street and that 8.8 acres and the potential 200 units that can be put there, because we changed it to a mixed-use development along with some commercial. So we're taking it on ourselves. We developed the app, the QR code, and the survey online where commuters can tell us where they come from, what time of day they travel, where they stop before they get there. So when we go to market that property, we can say these types of businesses would do well here because we have, there's 380 spots there. So it's not, at least we know there's 380 that will give us some feedback one way or the other. So
Good data.
John Allen's working on that. The Route 30 project with the electric bank, you may have gotten complaints from residents. There were some people who worked for the town that had problems getting in and out of their driveway when that project first started. I think those issues have been resolved. There was some communication that National Grid apologizes for not, knocking on people's doors and giving them information about when they might start work. We tried to start it on a holiday weekend before school got out so we could mobilize. So that project's moving along, but we want to, at least express the apology that National Grid gave to me when, those residents were certainly put off by the traffic situation and getting in and out of their driveway. So we apologize on their behalf for that. The Afonso development and the sewer line, we are at 50% design for the sewer line. Afonso is developing the parcel along Route 30 and is putting the pump station in that our sewer line will actually tie into. So we're in negotiations with him so he can install that pump station. And the front of that, if you remember, we passed a zone change in town meeting to allow mixed use there as well. So I think Route 30, as we know it today, in 2 to 3 years will look entirely different, and really will be, the infrastructure is being laid now for a real growth and innovation district. So I think it's really going to take off for that corridor. So we'll have to, plan on traffic and plan on other things and kind of mitigate that as we go. But all those things are in process and in play. In terms of procurement and land acquisition, I did sign the purchase and sale for the Robinson property today, which we voted at town meeting to use CPC funds for. For other procurements, the RFPs for the auditing services are due back tomorrow. You might remember we had a discussion with Finance Committee relative to the best practice for auditing, and so far we have 2 back. We haven't opened them yet. There is an evaluation criteria we'll go through later this week, and maybe as early as the 11th, probably not, but certainly as early as the 1st of July, we can have either the existing auditor coming back or another auditor who's competitively priced that can meet the criteria and the qualifications back before you. So we'll have that recommendation to you then. Under projects and budget, we were contacted by Mike Moore's office for an initial request for earmarks relating to Chapter 90. There'll be additional funds released, they feel, and they want to know what we would like to see if we were able to get additional Chapter 90 money. So some of the things we talked about and included in that list, when a senator or a state rep call and they say we need something, I have to give them something. So you may agree or disagree with these things, but one of the things that we're trying to do is the Safe Routes to School program and putting sidewalks in front of schools and connecting neighborhoods. So we have a grant for $500,000 to do that on Millbury Street, going up to Cortland and going down to Sean Michael. I think actually the design right now stops at Fitzpatrick, so we want to extend it down to Sean Michael so we can have sidewalks that connects that whole neighborhood back to Millbury Street. So we're short there, so that's one of the requests. The other is, George Hill Road is in dire need of repair, drainage and everything else that you can imagine. $4 million is the estimated ballpark to fix that road, so engineering costs would be the next Chapter 90 allotment under this earmark that we would ask for. That would be about $500,000 bucks. So we are making that request to the senator now. The cable studio, that's on pace to be opened for August. Verizon has to move a pole for utilities to be brought into that building. We put a post on Facebook pretty much after we signed a contract with Charter to move the fiber line from the old studio to this studio. So there will be an interruption in service for local cable when they do finally make that switch, but we'll do hopefully an adequate job getting the information out ahead of time before that actually happens. But that is underway, and we appreciate the efforts of, we're utilizing a lot of people to make sure that project goes smoothly, and it's really gone very smoothly. If you haven't gone in there before and after or seen the photos that we've taken, you should take a minute and just try to walk through, grab Andy, and see if he could take you through real quick, because they're making some great improvements to have a great studio there.
Will the interruption be on Tuesday at 7?
No, I'm gonna try to avoid that. Hopefully it'll be an off night, so you won't have a meeting.
All right.
The ADA study that we talked about, you signed a grant for probably a month and a half ago, it's almost completed. We expect to have a draft report by the end of the month and a presentation in July to the Board of Selectmen. Again, this qualifies us for construction grants for upgrading sidewalks or entrances to buildings and so forth. So they looked at everything from, you think of counter heights and what that's supposed to be for a person in a wheelchair. They actually look at the slope of this table. We all think it's level, nothing's rolling off it, but there are slopes built in, there are percentages of what they have to be. And they're looking at that level of detail as well. So if we have to make those adjustments and accommodations, at least we're eligible for grants to be able to fix those things. We don't know what, there may not be any slope issue, I'm just giving it to you as a very specific example. And the household hazardous waste collection day will begin again now that the sewer department is open. It's June 15th, 9 to 1, 9 Depot Street. You can contact the sewer department for more information. One human resource note, actually two, the fire inspector position that the captain was speaking about when he was here earlier. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, captain, right? Is it captain? So anyways, that position is open. It's been open for a while. We have applicants. We formed a committee. The chief today left to go to Ohio to look at that pumper tanker before we take delivery of it. So there's a little delay in that because obviously the chief is the person who's going to make the recommendation for an appointment. So he's in Ohio. So that's ongoing. We have applicants and we do have a committee ready to interview and make a recommendation. So we hope that happens over the next 2 weeks. Also, obviously in light of the Virginia Beach tragedy, we have had active shooter training in this building on 2 occasions. It's no different than anything else. We just need to be vigilant and do those again on a consistent basis. So we will plan another one in July, and we'll probably just have a rotating annual event, if you will, training event to prepare, if you can ever prepare for a tragedy like that. So we will take that on, and we talked to the chief about that today. In terms of upcoming meetings, there are the 11th and the 18th. One on the 11th is important because you'd have a joint appointment with the planning board to appoint one full member and one alternate member.
Associate.
So hopefully, an associate member, excuse me. Hopefully 11th works. And then the 18th, there's a hearing for a farmer's market winery license and a few other matters like that. So you may be meeting more than twice in a month for June.
So,
yep.
just, do you want me to stop you at the end?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm almost done. I just trying to get clarification on the appointment for the school committee position. So the 19th and 20 worked for Peter and Jen through an email that I sent out, and it works for the school as well. So there's the 19th and 20. I think it's a Wednesday, Thursday. work for the other members to appoint the school committee member.
Yes.
Fine.
Is there a druther of the 19th or 20?
20 would be better, but I could do either.
Bruce?
I'll make myself available for it. They're gonna give us a scheduled time, saying that we're all meeting together on just a Wednesday night. That's not a normal school committee night, right?
Yeah, no, it's a Wednesday, Thursday, so it's just, as far as I know, it'll just be that matter. You'll interview, I think there's 3 candidates, is that true? I know there was 2, but I thought somebody said there was 1 that straggled in. There might be 3. There's definitely 2 that could
And
be.
they don't wanna meet on our regularly scheduled time of our actual meetings?
No, Jay gave me, he said, no, the 11th and the 18th didn't work for him or the school committee.
What about their meetings?
They meet on the same night as
We
you.
meet on Tuesdays.
So there's no off week that they're gonna have one and we're not?
Not, if you go 11/18, now you're in July.
Fine, I'm making it over complicated. If people can show up to June 19th or 20th, then that's fine. I'll make myself available for either, so
So I'm gonna go for the 20.
go for the 20th. Is everybody okay with the 20th?
Yes.
Yep.
That's fine.
20th it is.
Okay. And so that's all I have.
We'll set an agenda for our own, and then they'll set their agenda for their own.
Yeah, we'll coordinate that.
We'll have a lot of
That'll
fun.
be fine.
Just rolling back to the liquor license for the individual that usually comes to the farmer's market that missed a meeting or something like that. I got an email today from one of the coordinators for the farmer's market concerned that they were going to miss the first couple weeks.
Yeah.
So the farmer's market starts next week?
They submitted their application to our office yesterday.
Okay.
And we don't do an advertisement until we have an application. You have to advertise for at least a week prior to the meeting. Because of the advertisement date, he missed the deadline for this week's Grafton News, has to go in next week's. And I told him the earliest we'd be able to meet on the matter would be the 18th.
Is that something that we commonly do for
Hearing,
liquor
yeah.
license? It has to go for,
Yeah, we don't have to notify abutters because it's happening at the Common and it's a farmer's market license, but they do have to, you have to have a public hearing on it.
did we have a public hearing last year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did we?
yeah.
All right.
It's the same guy, it's
Yeah,
the
from
same,
Westwood.
it's Aeronap,
Yeah, I don't know.
but
Okay.
the Agricultural Commission state requires it.
So we have to have a hearing.
Yep.
Yeah.
For a one, all right. Okay, so,
State and alcohol.
He knew he was behind schedule. I talked to him and he got it.
yeah, I'm just getting it through, I saw the email kind of on my way in here. So, okay. So that will go on the 18th then. All right. Okay. Does anybody have questions for Tim on anything that he was reported on?
Yeah, Tim, quick question.
Yeah.
Going back to the Chapter 90 earmarking, with the state legislature, is there a priority that you're giving, to them on which project you'd like to see, or you just say these are the 2 things that we?
Yeah, and, yeah, for us to get the amount of money that both of those cost is highly unlikely. So
Okay.
it'll be reduced substantially, and that'll be augmented funding for one of the 2 projects.
I see, okay, thank you.
I completely missed everything he just said.
He answered
Second,
it.
well,
It's also,
He asked me to prioritize the 2 Chapter 90 requests.
oh, for George Hill.
no, George Hill or the Safe Route Walking, there's the
Okay.
2 projects, so he mentioned.
I can move, I have a question on that, I'll move it down to the discussion piece, but, the positions that we're gonna hire for, can you give a brief update on where we're at with those? So, part-time position for the selectmen's staff in your office, and then the, joint position for conservation and planning board, where are they at?
I'll start with planning and conservation. We are going to recommend Leah Cameron to be the conservation agent / assistant planner,
Who is currently,
who's currently serving in that capacity since Maria's been down.
okay,
So Sandy, Joe, and Becca were involved in that screening process. And I work with Leah more now on green communities, so I know what her disposition is for the work. I know her, that there's quality there, so I support their recommendation, so I didn't really need to interview her. But we hope to have that affirmation to the board for the 11th.
okay, so that's it, what about the position
For,
in your
for our
office?
position, we haven't done anything because we got through town meeting Cindy went on vacation, and it's just been all hands on deck doing all the stuff that we've been doing, so.
Okay. So, when we look at that, position, have you had any more thoughts on, what else you can do with it as far as, support for some of the areas that we're not gonna be able to cover out of the planning board office now? Like, affordable housing and things like that. You know, if you haven't hired a position yet and you haven't gone out and advertised for it yet, you have some part-time hours there, but we were using, or the Affordable Housing Trust was using staff hours that we were willing to, compensate the town for, so to speak. I assume that's gonna be gone.
Well, we're still providing that service now.
I know, Joe's providing
Joe is
the service,
Yeah.
yes. But, is that something that, Joe's gonna be doing full-time? Is he gonna be our staff support, and I say our, as his Affordable Housing Trust, or?
Well, I don't know if Joe will be,
No, Joe, we've
but
talked about.
someone in that office will.
Yeah.
Okay, so that kind of lends me, because when we first started the process for building out what you were looking for the requirements for the position, it became a slash position, dual planning board and conservation role. And then we really didn't talk about the Affordable Housing Trust role. And Joe's kind of naturally assumed the position, and he's helping us out now. But as any project were to gain speed, we would probably require somebody, especially if they were contributing funds for it. And I know CPC does, Joanne does your staff work, right?
Yep.
That's a paid position?
An hourly, yeah, as needed. Her hours fluctuate greatly depending on
Okay.
how much work is
And you're
involved.
paying for that out of your reserve account, right?
Out of our administrative budget.
Just for your budget. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh, no, I just was gonna say, if Leah accepts this, if she is appointed, her position will be filled, correct?
Yes, yeah,
So there will
probably,
be-
well,
It's-
yeah, because it's a union position, we still have discussions to have around that replacement.
But planning, should have a full staff. Well, I mean, if Leah takes this other job, you should also.
Yeah, that
you'll-
position will be backfilled, that's correct.
Okay. So I just would, in Bruce's point, like, there will be somebody else in that office that is available to do work. We just don't know who that is yet.
Right, but if it's a union position, you're gonna go back and retailor what the roles and positions of her job was, right? You have to go back to the union and say, yeah, we're gonna change the job description here, gonna change on what they're actually gonna do.
Yeah, well, anything that's you don't have to be that detailed, right? Administrative work, opening mail, making copies, sending an email,
Yeah,
making
that's
appointments,
not
all
what
that.
we're looking for on the Affordable Housing Trust, we're looking at somebody with some expertise. We had that with Rachel, we have that with Joe.
And Morgan.
And we had that with Ann. And I think the Affordable Housing Trust has demonstrated their willingness to spend for that position. So if it's unfilled, I just wanna make sure that you're taking that into account.
Yeah.
So especially if we're doing something in the Selectmen's office, so. Anyways, that's what I was getting at. I take the long road to
Yeah,
everything, so.
just when you
fine.
hone in on the expertise that's necessary for the Affordable Housing Trust, just tell me what those particulars are, and I'll make sure that Joe is tasked to make sure that those people can fulfill those duties.
Okay, I mean, it might be benefit just to have Joe design the position, cause he's gonna know what we're gonna want, and he's got experience with it, so. All right, any select board reports?
I have something. I just have some
Please.
correspondence from the Community Preservation Coalition, who is, oversees all of the CPA stuff, and they just wanted to let us know that the coalition highlighted Grafton's approval to purchase the Robinson properties on their social media. So they're just kind of giving a shout out to us and our wonderful CPA projects, and that they're really excited about the purchase of the Robinson property.
That's terrific. What about the common property? They excited about
They
that too?
didn't highlight that
Huh.
in their social media. They just highlighted the Robinson purchase. But
Okay.
that doesn't necessarily mean they are not excited about it.
The other thing while we're on reports from select board members, committee assignments, Craig was on the EDC and Sargon was on CIPC?
No, Red's
No,
on
it's-
CIPC.
Yeah, I'm on CIPC now.
Okay,
I don't think Saigon was on anything,
Sargon was on nothing, Craig was on EDC
and Tiff.
And tip.
and the TIF committee. Okay, so, June 11th, we'll
Yeah, we thought we'd
put
do that.
somebody in a position there too. Okay. All right, I'll get with you on that piece. Any correspondence beyond what Jenna?
I don't, actually, yeah, one of the neighbors from Amherst Street reached out to me again about, the condition that borders Cumberland Farms in North Grafton with their properties. We had dealt with this about 9 months ago, maybe it was like last October. A lot of trash just accumulates in that area. Can we reach out to them or send somebody by there to figure out what's going on there, why there's all of a sudden so much trash? Because, you know, everybody remembers when they came in here, they promised to be a good neighbor, blah, 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 all that, but, you know.
What's the street again?
Amherst?
Yeah, we can go. I have a problem with their bathrooms, to be honest with you. And I said to the Board of Health all the time, it's like, they're horrible.
Yeah.
I just don't think they clean them at all. But, at first I've heard about the trash, so I'll
Okay.
call.
All right, discussion pieces. We got next meeting dates on there, and I assume we're looking to canvas what we want to do for the summer. If we're gonna have a discussion on it, we might as well talk about what we want to try to get accomplished over the summer. It was something that I had thought about coming into tonight, as we were it's a fairly new board. New members, new organization, et cetera, moving forward. I thought it would be a good idea for the select board to have some type of goals and have, you know, objectives for a particular year or a particular quarter. I don't care really how it gets rolled out, but just so when you know, if we have some projects that we're looking to do or advocate for, then they can be highlighted, and if we need to form subgroups on them or however we want to move forward with them as we take some of the burden of some of the civic duties or civil duties on our own. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, but we need to iron out the rest of the summer, and October town meeting is 4 months away. So if there's something that's big on the horizon that's going to require a town meeting vote, now's the time to start. So I'll open it up to the board to collect any thoughts on keeping just a normal schedule through the summer.
I would like to do that. I think, as we've already seen, we're gonna be really busy for the next 2.5 weeks. In terms of actual concrete goals with measurables and objectives and timelines and all that, I think I would like to collect my thoughts and have more of a substantive discussion on the 11th, so that we're not just spitting out ideas right here in a stream of consciousness fashion. Because I could do that, but it's not gonna be productive.
Well, you know how much I love to just ramble on
Right.
and on and on. So yeah, I don't mind putting some parameters to it and putting it on the agenda.
And, you know, we've already had a discussion once tonight about, you know, things kind of taking a while here, and I don't want anybody to think that, you know, we're continually kicking the can down the road, but you do want, I think, something, the big picture stuff, I like to be thoughtful and more organized about that rather than just, you know, start spitting things out.
So, Doreen?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have a suggestion I want to bring forth to the select board. So in Sutton, they do a goals meeting, a select board goals meeting once a year, and I think it would be appropriate for us, seeing that we are a new board too, to maybe take a half a day. It's usually done off-site. It involves the town administrator, an assistant town administrator. We could have a moderator there if we wanted to or not. It could be someone like Cindy just taking notes. And it just kind of gives the opportunity for us to kind of flesh out some ideas and come up with a solid formal goals, you know, that Tim would have in front of him, we would have in front of us, sort of as a roadmap and a guideline to remind us of what, you know, our master goals are for the year. You know, if we put this off a couple weeks, we could work on maybe getting some input from residents of what their concerns would be, and then you know, address it publicly after the meeting. So after the goals meeting, we would come back and say, this is what was discussed. Meeting minutes would be, you know, transparent. And we could say, you know, this was our 4-hour discussion as a board, and this is what we came up with, and these are our list of priorities.
I like that idea.
Is a week enough time for us to collect some thoughts and just put some structure to it for next week? One of the things I do want to bring back next week is I want to have a renewed discussion on the sustainability committee with the new memberships that we have on here. I don't mind re-exploring it, and I think it would be beneficial to do. That can kind of be part of this discussion, and then I'll work with the administrator's office to make sure that we have the right framework for a goals discussion, so to speak.
Yeah.
Can put some thoughts together. Does anybody else have anything for this piece?
I just had a question so Doreen and Sutton, do they do it off-site? Do they?
They typically do it off-site. They choose, you know, whatever works for, they all work full-time. So,
Right.
you know, sometimes it's a Saturday morning at a golf course or something, and just, they sit and they talk and they rent out a room and casually discuss it, you know, and I think it has to still be considered a meeting. It still has to be posted and all that. But it's more of a brainstorming meeting, and like I said, minutes are taken. And then I actually have copies of it from Sutton that I'm happy to share too, of their last goals meeting.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that.
I would prefer it would be on a workshop night, so if we're having 3 meetings in a month, and the second one is typically something that's assigned to a workshop.
We could absolutely do that too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then we have all the apparatus in place to record and things of that nature. And it's not another day out.
Yeah, and I'm certainly not saying I'm opposed to moving forward with, you know, discussions such as the Sustainability Commission and things like that that have already been discussed. I'm just saying that, seeing that we sort of have a new team here.
Yeah.
You know, it might be a good time to do that.
It might be separate things entirely anyways, so I just
Right.
want to make people aware that it was going to be on the agenda, so prepare your talking points now.
Okay.
So we can hash it out.
I like golf course and Saturday. That was sort of a selling point. But yes.
Anything else for discussion? One thing, does anybody else have anything? All right. I went to the Board of Health meeting last night. This is something that we're going to have on the June 11th meeting. It was recorded, so in order to prepare for any discussion we have on it next week, I would recommend that everybody watch it. I don't feel the need to have we already had a joint meeting that's kind of gone by. They had their meeting last night. They pretty much stated what they were talking about. There's no reason to have a joint meeting and bring them in here and discuss it again. We can review the tape and we can come up with our own impression of it and talk about it next week. So I just want everybody to be aware that it's going to be on the agenda, and we're going to have to talk about a few of the things there. So, any other discussion before we move on to minutes?
Nope.
Okay. We have 2 sets of minutes. I don't mind taking them in one motion if everybody's had a chance to review them.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Carlson.
motion that the Select Board approve meeting minutes for April 2nd, 2019, and for May 14th, 2019.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have no executive session tonight. The only thing that I will bring up is with 2 new members, I'm sure somebody has reached out to somebody to bring you up to speed on current cases that are before the town, and if not, it wouldn't be a bad idea to next week to reserve some time if Jenny wants to come out and do this all as one group, if it's possible.
I was trying to coordinate with both the Labor and General Counsel and Hassett and Donnelly for our September briefing. I've updated the 2 new members on relevant cases and status. If you wanted to do it sooner, I'm not so sure I can get all those folks in one room for the 11th. But
So
I
we're
can
waiting until
certainly try.
September on it.
Yeah, I thought, because you try to do it in September anyways.
Okay, and they, you both comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I feel up to speed with discussions I have with Tim from now anyway.
Perfect. Then we will wait till September.
Thank you.
That is all for us, for the select board. Motion to adjourn. The evening. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.